Hey everyone, my name is Ty Taylor. I am an independent game developer and the director of the Quantum Astrophysicists Guild, a independent game publisher. Thank you for Play NYC for asking me to be here. Happy to be talking. And I wanted to talk with you all about something that's been on my mind a lot recently and over the last few years, which is getting key requests. As an indie, you're going to launch your game on Steam or Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, whatever, and as soon as you set your announcement date, as soon as you put your store page up, you're going to be probably inundated with key requests. In case you don't know what a key is for background, it's just an easy way to access a game. So on Steam, for example, you can get a 15-character code, which is a single-use code, which you can go to your Steam client, enter it in, and then you download the game, which is really super convenient. You can do this on Xbox, Switch, PlayStation, and mobile devices as well. It's a super convenient way of distributing your game to people, whether they buy it on a third-party site like Humble Bundle, or if you just want to give it to press or to testers. It's a safe and easy way to distribute your game. You don't have to worry about someone taking your game and throwing it up on Pirate Bay, which that's a different talk entirely. But if you don't trust someone fully, you don't have to worry about them taking your game binary and distributing it all over the place. You can just give them a Steam key or a console key or whatever. And they're super convenient. And on Steam, you can basically generate as many as you want within reason. Consoles give you a limited number, but at least on Xbox and PlayStation, you get a fairly generous number of keys. But once you create your store pages, especially Steam, you're gonna get inundated with key requesters. Usually on Steam, your email is gonna be available, or at least easy to find. Like, you need a support email after all. And bots, or just people with a lot of free time on their hands, have a tendency to go through every newly listed game on Steam, scrape out the game title, scrape out your contact email, put them together in some database, and now suddenly you're going to be getting a lot of key requests, which is great because a lot of them are legitimate good requests. Your game, especially if it's an interesting game that people care about, they're going to want to reach out to you if they are someone who might want to play your game. Press, a YouTuber, Twitch person, anything along those lines. But it's important to be able to suss out the real requests from the fake requests. And believe me, you're going to get a lot of fake requests. I don't know if they're coming from one person, from just a few handful of people, or just a lot of people are in the key scamming game. But it's every time, especially since I run a small indie publisher, we put out a lot of games on Steam, and every time we come up to launch a game, we get inundated with queue requests, and a lot of them are definitely absolutely fake. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today, is kind of how to suss out the real key requests from legitimate sites and the obvious fake ones, and share some tips with you. And you're gonna obviously the first step is to just look at the domain they send on. If someone is Bob at Polygon.com, and you can see their email tag right in their in your inbox, they're from Polygon. Like, it's impossible to fake it's possible to fake an at Polygon.com account, but if you're sending back to the right account, then it's no one at Polygon or any legitimate site is going to scam you for a key. So it's important to evaluate the site that you're getting into. And when you get someone's email, you can literally just copy the tail of their email and go to their website and see for yourself whether or not it's a legitimate site. And you're going to get a wide variety. Hopefully Polygon contacts you. That would be awesome. But more likely is 100 different requests from people who have really small blogs. Like, they've created a free WordPress page, and now they are a game reviewer. And I'm not trying to criticize those people. Everyone starts somewhere, obviously, and I actually tend to support these people. Like, there's no there's no press outlet necessarily that's too small when they contact my company to request a key, but that's something that you need to make a judgment call for yourself. Especially when it comes to Steam keys, I think it's okay to be very generous. You have a basically unlimited amount. So who cares if someone has like 100 subscribers on YouTube? It's not the most impressive number ever, but they're growing, they're trying, and they're reaching out to you to get a key request. If it's for Steam, fine. When you're launching a game on Nintendo Switch, that's a situation where you only have about 200 keys in your disposal, so you've got to kind of treat those like gold. And if someone's only got 100 YouTube subscribers, it's probably not in your best interest to give them one of your 200 keys, unless they're just very enthusiastic, definitely going to give you a glowing praise. Use your judgment. But going to their website or to their YouTube channel or their Twitch page is just a good way for you to gut check whether or not they're legitimate. Another way is to look at just the general professionalism of their email. If they provide you with their website, including a YouTube or Twitch link, if they include their full name properly, has an email sign-off, if they include their Twitter handle, so you can at least like check them out on Twitter to make sure they're a real person and not a bot. Those are all good signs that it's probably a real legitimate request. And you can look for the number of keys that they're requesting, which is an interesting subject. So unless you're actually launching a multiplayer online only game, there's typically no good reason for someone to request more than one key. A lot of times they'll structure it as, hey, can you give me 2 or 3 or 4 keys so that I can have one and share it with my friends? And that's also a sign of someone being a scammer and not legitimate. And so why would people be asking for all these keys? Well, one option is that they just want to play every game on Steam, which is definitely possible, but more likely is that they're selling them. And there are black market websites like G2A.com is an example, which is, it's not even a gray market. It is a black market website run by terrible people, used by terrible people. And almost, if you're someone who buys games on G2A, it's important for you to know that those games were not put there by the developer. When a game is purchased on G2A, a developer makes $0 from that sale. And most of the time, the games come from bundles, to be fair. So we've put some of our games on Humble Bundles before, which basically give everyone a key. So you buy a Humble Bundle, you get 10 or so games, and you don't want one of our games, and that's fine. But when you go to put it on G2A, the developer doesn't make any money. We don't see any money. And they're just trying to make a quick buck off of that extra key. And I suppose that's fine. That's not scamming. That's kind of gray market area where that's not the intention of the key. It wasn't meant to be resold, but there you have it, and that you can do whatever you want to with something you bought, I suppose. But where you get into a lot of murky water with G2A is that a lot of the keys there are from scammers. And one way people scam on G2A is that they use stolen or charged back credit cards to buy keys from Steam, do a chargeback or anything like that, and sell the key on G2A and make a buck off of that, which is of course illegal, but these are international people and impossible to track down. But another way is by asking you, an independent game developer who's excited to launch your game. It's coming out. It's one of the highlights of your career. It's incredibly exciting. They pretend to be press, and they pretend to be a YouTuber, and they will ask you for keys. This is something that is wildly common. And again, I don't know if this is by one person doing it and making a huge racket or just something that's really caught on, but it's very important that you're able to suss out the real requests from the fake requests, because having your game say you sell it for $10 or $15 or something like that on Steam. If at launch someone could just go buy it on G2A for $1, you've never done a bundle, you've just sent a key to someone who you thought was real press. Obviously, that is basically taking a sale away from you directly. And if you just blindly send keys to everyone who requests one, then you're potentially losing quite a lot of money. So it's important to be suspicious, but it's also important to make sure you don't be overly suspicious and not give press who are legitimately requesting, even the smallest YouTubers or Twitch folks, keys. So it's a fine balancing act. So I want to talk to you about how we navigate it at QAG, and what I've been doing a lot in the past. So obviously I mentioned you can check their domain, you can check things like the professionalism of the email and even like the personalization of the email. Like, I think the bots or whoever is sending it manually is going to enter your game name, but are they describing your game in any way? Are they saying, hey, this looks cool because X attribute about your game? Or are they just clearly shuffling it off? Do they give you any kind of indication that they want to play your game, or are they clearly just kind of bulk emailing every developer that they found on Steam's new release? And if their domain name is an @Gmail or @Yahoo or whatever, it's not like an official site, that's fine. Like, a lot of YouTubers and Twitch folks don't have their own domain. If they're any kind of real website, they should have their own domain set up, and so that's a filter. If it's a YouTube requester, especially, one thing you can do is go to the About section of their YouTube page and hit their contact info, and you can just compare their email address to the one that's sending out. Even just last week, I got a request from someone claiming to be a different YouTuber. They were claiming to be someone else. They created a Gmail account, which of course you can just do easily for free, that looked like it was this person. And they're just like, hey, look at me, I've got this hundreds of thousands of subscribers, I want to play your game. Of course, they weren't this person. I could easily just go to this person's... They even linked the YouTube. I went to this person's YouTube page, went to the About section, and saw, oh, look at this email, does not match. It's obviously a scammer. I even reached out to the YouTuber to be like, hey, your identity is kind of being stolen here. So that's definitely something to be suspicious of and to double check, especially with a larger YouTuber. I mean, obviously, if your game is great, hopefully large YouTubers reach out to you, but so many people reach out to larger YouTubers that they almost don't need to. So that's something to be suspect of. Someone who's going to just sell your key is probably not going to come to you with their YouTube account of just 100 people subscribed to them, because if they're going to pretend to be someone, they would pretend to be someone with 100,000, not 100 subscribers. So if they're a smaller YouTuber like that, it's probably fine to send it to them. But ultimately, it can be difficult. I have an example that actually happened recently, that someone was sending a very legit looking email. Like, their email ended with something that looked like a business card, like it looked like a picture of them with like a phone number and everything. It was a foreign phone, so it's not like I tried calling it. I've never even bothered trying to call someone who sent me an email. But they linked to a real website. Like, you could follow the domain and go to the website, and it had articles and everything. And so they were requesting a switch key, which, like I mentioned, are kind of gold. You only get 200 of them. So I sent them one. I'm like, this looks fine. I even put them in our press list. I'm like, this looks totally legitimate. Fine. It was a Middle Eastern website. I didn't speak Arabic, so I wasn't able to completely verify it, but it looked legit. The next day, I got a very similar looking email. It was from a different person, also a Middle Eastern website, also asking for a switch key. And I sent them one too. I'm like, okay, maybe this is a trend where there's a bunch of foreign websites. I don't really keep up on Arabic written websites. That's fine. So I noticed something about the email where both of them listed the number of monthly visitors as some number around 650,000 or 800,000, but they did it in a very similar way. And it wasn't a copy-paste email. It was just very similar. The next day, I got a very, very similar email from someone with an Arabic website with a business card looking thing at the end of it, and listing the number of viewers monthly on their website, which is just an interesting thing to volunteer. Like, maybe they'll share that if you ask for it, but usually people don't, like, include it in that way. Especially the 3 times in a row started raising some really weird red flags with me. Also because they were emailing me directly and not our just press alias. So, I actually got a few more of these throughout the next few days. We were about to launch a game called Funtime. And I actually tracked down their domain registration using a whois lookup. That's WHOIS, one word. If you just Google that, like a whois lookup, you can actually find out who registered a particular domain, which is obviously has its own internet privacy concerns. But I found out that they were all registered to the exact same registrar and hosted by the same hosting website. Obviously, this is all the same person. Cleverly, using very real-looking emails and real domains with real-looking press sites that showed real articles, which I'm sure they just scraped from some other website. And they got a couple of valuable switch keys from me. And they totally would have gotten away with it if their emails didn't all look so similar. So what do you do about that? How can you, like, scammers are definitely getting a lot smarter. So how do you address that? And I guess this entire talk boils down to, like, one tip that I have for you, which is, when in doubt, just send a fake key. Because if you send a fake key, what happens is they can't actually validate that it's a real key without activating the key. Meaning, the only way to see if it's real or not before they sell it on G2A is to try to use it themselves. And now if it's someone scamming you for a key for themselves because they just really want a free copy of your game, fine, they weren't going to buy it anyway, right? So give them a key, whatever, don't give them a key, whatever. But if they're going to sell the game on G2A, they have to just upload the key. Meaning that their G2A profile kind of works as like an Amazon seller or anything like that, where you have like an upvote or a downvote or a star rating for your G2A seller profile. Meaning that when someone buys the key, tries to activate it themselves, and says, hey, this key doesn't work, this is a ripoff, they're gonna, if they get a lot of fake keys given to them, then their G2A account, which they are trying to build a good reputation for so they can sell on G2A, gets tanked. And so you scam the scammer. And if it's a legitimate request, if it's someone who actually wants the key, and you give them a fake key because you weren't sure, all they're going to do is email you back and say, hey, I tried to enter this key and it doesn't work. Then you say, oops, I'm sorry, I took it from the wrong list. Here's a real one. Because if they get back to you and say, hey, it doesn't work, then because they tried it, and by the way, they would get back to you within like 24 or 48 hours. A G2A sale is going to take days. So if they get back to you right away and say, hey, it doesn't work, then just send them a real one. Just say, whoops, mix up. But giving fake keys, and a fake key is easy to do. Just take a real key and like change a few of the letters and numbers, or just type it into the keyboard in a way that looks like a real key, whether it's Steam or Switch or whatever. It teaches people on G2A not to use that website, because once they spend X amount of dollars on something that doesn't work, they're not going to keep going back to this black market website and supporting scammers. So it's kind of a win-win-win. You get to scam the scammers, you get to teach people what G2A is bad, and you get to filter press requests with almost no effort. Just say, oh my god, thank you so much for your interest in my game. Here's a key. Please let me know what you think and share your article with me. 19 times out of 20, you're not going to hear back from this person. They're not going to even try to review the key because they're just going to sell the key. So, when in doubt, send fakes. Yeah, that's basically the entire moral of the talk, is that I just send fake keys to people who I suspect are scammers, and it almost never hear back from them. It's great. That's it. That's all I have to say. I hope this talk helped you. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. You can find me on Twitter at IMakeIndieGames, and my email is ty@qag.io. All right, thanks everybody.